no bullshit talks. And I'm joined here today with Julian Hayes II, who is executive health consultant. So welcome, Julian. And we're going to find out all about you today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Sabrina. I definitely am excited to be here and looking forward for our conversation.
Great. And I want to hear more about what that is, because executive health consultant, it's quite a vague term. It could mean so many different things. It could also mean exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
But what is it that you exactly do?
Yeah, so it sort of sounds like what it sort of is what it sounds
Yeah.
like, but then there's a lot more nuance to that as well, right? And so it's so as it sounds, executive health. So I guess typically I do tend to gravitate toward working with more executives and entrepreneurs but I really think that everyone can pretty much and is the executive of their own life. So it's kind of an idea of it's taking a whole systems approach to someone's health and at the cellular level. So we're starting at someone's DNA and then building up from there in terms of, and then looking at things such as their environment and even their relationships. And that's kind of that in a nutshell.
It's interesting you mentioned the DNA thing, because there were so many consultants out there dealing with health, healthy lifestyle, and all that kind of stuff. And it's become kind of a buzz term or kind of buzz category where everyone's trying to help you live your best life and get you fitter and healthier and have a better work-life balance and all that kind of stuff. But you're actually into something that's called epigenetics, right? You kind of focus on that. And I don't think I've met anyone else who does that. So it's got to be something that's a little bit niche for you. And first of all, I want you to kind of explain to the audience, because I reckon that a lot of people are probably like, what on earth is epigenetics? So first of all, what is epigenetics and why are you interested in it?
Yeah, so I guess the reason why I'm interested first is because I was curious about my I had a couple illnesses that always showed up during my family tree. And then I would look at other families and it didn't show up. And I have a background as I went to medical school for a year, then I left. So I've always been just fascinated by different things. And I get a little breadcrumb and I go investigate it on my own. And so, I kind of decipher some things. I find a mentor who's really skilled in this and I learn from it, get certified and still do independent studying. But what epigenetics is when you hear the word epi means above. And then of course, genetics is the gene itself. So for the longest, most people probably think of when they hear the genetics and their genes, that these are just the things I was born with and it's set in place. And that part is true. The genes I have today are the genes I have. The interesting thing is it's the genes we have, we can actually control those. And that's the epigenetics portion in terms of, is it going to be expressed? Is it going to express itself? Is it going to turn on? Is it going to turn off? And I like to think of this as the hardwire of a computer and then the software. And then the inputs from that software is going to dictate how that hardware is going to operate. And in this sense, the hardware is our body and the inputs, the software is the foods we eat, the thoughts we think, the relationships we have, our vocation, our jobs, the way we exercise, the way we sleep, nearly every single facet of life that we're doing, we are interacting dynamically with it. And it is communicating with us on a cellular level of turning on and off certain genes. And so when you think about that in the big picture, it's our genes are just clues to the past, whereas the epigenetics part helps us mold the future to our liking. And I like this because this gives you power and autonomy, because a lot of times we think, oh, this illness runs in my family, or none of us can control our weight. Everybody in my family struggles with this. And while you may have genes that give you a higher propensity for that, it's not set in stone. And that's the key differentiator there.
Wow. And I think that as I said, I've not heard any other health consultant or health coach kind of talk about that. And it's interesting. Like you said, you went to med school for a year, and I think we chatted about this previously, how we both kind of went on the medical school path, felt it wasn't for us and kind of leave. Like how, like, it's different in the US though, because you do med school, but you did pre-med and you had to go to
Oh,
medical school, and it's longer. Whereas we jumped straight in at the age of 18, which is so stupid because who knows what they actually want to do when they're 18, right? And so, what was medical school like for you, and what made you leave and become an entrepreneur? Because there's not many people have done that, but it's not the right path for entrepreneurs, definitely.
yeah. So medical school it's like drinking out from a fire hose when I talk about the curriculum. It's so much information. But then I will also say though that it wasn't difficult. It's just a lot of information thrown at you. And so when you learn how to navigate that, it's actually pretty, I'm not gonna say easy, but it's not as hard as people think it is. But really the biggest highlight for me during medical school is just figuring out that I'm not crazy for a lot of my thoughts and just my personality, because I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. Going to New York is a completely different thing because I'm from the South, and the South moves at a totally different pace than in New York, smack dab in the city. And when I get up there, like I said, the moment that I knew I wasn't going back is when I went to it was happy hour. So I went to happy hour in the Lower East Side. Never forget it. And I just had this conversation with this girl, and she's combining her passion while being able to make a living from it as well. And I'm like, wow, because for the whole time before that, see, medical school was something that was secure to me. Like, I know I'm going to be guaranteed a job. Pretty much, if I don't mess up, I'm going to have a really good salary because I wanted to be an eye surgeon. And
Very
but I had to,
specific.
I love ophthalmology. I loved it. And so now I had to pass different tests and all that to, match and all that, but that's a whole different conversation. But so I that was a safe route for me because all I had to do was show up, take a test, mark some answers, rinse and repeat for a few years, go to the hospital, walk around, talk to some people, do my job a little bit, and then I'll be on my own at some point, right? And everyone will be proud of me too. I'm first generation in my family, so no one in my family graduated college. Definitely didn't go to medical school. So like I'm like the golden child at this point, right? My approval rating is through the roof. And so it just feels good to have all of this, support and everything. But then something inside of me is always feeling like this is not right. And it may sound weird, but you got these little rumblings at times, or you got these little voices like, I don't know, man. I don't know. This doesn't seem right. You just always got this doubt. And you notice other students are just really passionate about being in medical school and you're just like, I like being in New York, going out partying and stuff, but it's okay. And so it's just adding all those things up. I just came back and just said, I'm just not going to go back. And I'm going to just figure it out. I wanted to write as well. And so there's a couple things that I wanted to do to combine it. I knew I still wanted to be in health, and you just kind of just figured it out. Definitely took a lot of steps back to try to figure it out, but I think I'm pretty happy with my decision.
Yeah, and then that's kind of the key thing, isn't it? Is that that you've made the right decision now. But I know that I left further in than you as well, so it was obviously a little bit difficult for me. But I think I got massive FOMO when everyone was updating their Facebook page at the time, going Dr. So and so, and all my friends and my classmates, and I was like, and it was a difficult decision, but mine was the same. I moved to London, and it was like London was an amazing city. I loved the scene, I loved the social, and I started my first company whilst I was at med school, and then realized that wasn't for me. I couldn't do that. That entrepreneurial spirit, I was going to be restricted from everything there. So I totally get it. And you said about the writing, I think, within medicine, you can definitely write, you can get published, but it's very different. You can't express yourself, right? It's a totally different thing. Everyone's like, oh, you can still write and you get published, in the journals and stuff, but it's not the same. And since you've left, you've had quite a lot of stuff published in really big kind of publications. You Entrepreneur and Business Insider and Inc. and Success Magazine. That's pretty impressive list. So how did you kind of get into that and I'm sure that lots of potential writers out there are thinking, I'd love to do that. So any tips for those people?
Yeah, so I'll get the boring aspects out of the way first. So I just committed to writing every day, and I committed to writing 500 words every day, and I was just going to build my skill up. I had a friend who's a writer. He doesn't write though, but that's what he went to school for. It's weird. It's weird how degrees work. A lot of times, degrees we get in school is the things we don't end up doing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like saying, okay, these 20, 21-year-olds that are going to, they don't know anything about life, which totally makes sense. But that's another side tangent. So he helps me because my writing was terrible when I first started because I don't have any formal background. I just know I wanted to do it. So he's helping with grammar and everything. And so I get to a point where I'm semi-competent at writing. And then I get a writing coach that helps me. And he helps me because I used to write like a very academic person. Like you reading the journal. So I was just writing it was very stiff. And it's a very good sedative. If you wanted to read something before you go to bed, it would help with that. And so he helped me learn how to write for like the general public, because that's the people that's going to be reading your information, not other doctors, not other health experts. So with those things, and then so after I got that infrastructure established, I started really small. So I remember the first outside writing gig I had outside of my blog was I went to my local newspaper here. It's the biggest one in Tennessee, but it's the local one as well, since I'm in the capital. And I just walked in there. I researched the newspaper a little bit, and I saw the health information. I was like, this is not that good. I can totally write something better than this. And so I walked up to her, and I just shot my shot, as they say now. And I got the opportunity. I wrote there for a handful of months. And so then I got the courage to start reaching out to other smaller online publications that kind of fit my area that I want to talk to. And then over time, I just kept stacking up those bylines, as they call them. Then I pitched Entrepreneur. The editors, I don't think he's there anymore, but very beneficial. He sent back a reply that this is one of the worst pitches that he's ever gotten. And
no way.
Yeah, which is okay. I'm okay with that kind of criticism because, I played athletics and everything. And so I actually respond better to that, right? I'd rather somebody tell me the truth, just get it out, than like just try to let me down easy, but but they're holding back.
Did he tell you the reason why it was so bad?
Yeah, just it's just a lot of things, from the intro to just the way the article flowed and a lot of things. So it was really beneficial. So I came back maybe 2 or 3 months later and pitched him again. And it was an immediate yes.
That's so cool. And you see, that's it. That's actual beneficial feedback, right? Because they could have, like you said, they could have been really nice about it and just been like, it's not the right fit for us at this moment. And you'd have thought, I'm a good writer, just bad timing, and
Exactly.
and it wouldn't have done you any good. But actually, that helped you so much. And it reminds me of a book I just read. I don't know if you've ever read a book called Radical Candor by Kim Scott.
No, I haven't.
I would so recommend it. So it's so Kim Scott's got a glorious reputation. She's worked at Twitter, like Google, like all the big kind of tech giants, Apple, and she helps the CEOs with different things. But her whole thing is that you need to be radically candid about your approach with your feedback. Otherwise, you're not going to help them. And she's got this kind of quadrant of where you can be. And obviously, you don't want to be that kind of the dick approach where you're just being really rude for the sake of it. But then you don't want to be like too nice. And she calls that ruinous empathy. And she's like, well, I have a tendency to do that because you don't want to offend people, right? So it's like that, like I just use as an example. You'd say, it's not the right fit for us at this time. And it's like, what you're actually doing, you're ruining your career by doing that, because you're never actually telling you the truth. But by being candid, I don't know, maybe he crossed over into the dick position with how harsh his feedback was, I don't know. But, that feedback, you took it on board and actually use it to improve yourself. And now you've managed to land gigs everywhere. That's probably made you a better writer, right? So that's only a good thing that feedback came to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think those are the little small moments. Even when I remember when I was just getting started and you would have people say things like, I don't know, like, why are you doing that? You're giving up medical school for this? Or why are you making this pivot in health? You should just stick to this avenue of fitness and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know. I feed on that. I like that. I really do like it because it's like fuel, right? It's like fuel. So I really do like it. So, and it's also another thing of just always turning obstacles into opportunities. Because I think no matter the obstacle, no matter how dire something feels or just how uncomfortable it is, I think in every situation there is something that we can pull out of it that can really help us grow into the next iteration.
I love that bit. I think that's great. And I say you can, it's all about how you perceive things. And I think that it's hard though, because no one likes criticism or, rejection or anything like that. It's not easy to take. So, but if you can somehow see the silver lining from everything, then you can spin it to how you want to do it, which is pretty awesome, I think. So, but yeah, I'd say like massive congrats for all of those roles. And I think that also what I'm learning from that story is that as a writer, there's no easy way to kind of get yourself out there and land yourself those gigs. Like again, people hear overnight successes where they, just write one piece and everyone's just it went viral and then everyone wrote after them. It generally doesn't happen like that. You slogged at it with your local paper and you racked up a portfolio, and how most people do it. And it's great to hear that
Yeah,
hard work goes on.
I look at it like investing. I mean, sure, there's some people that maybe get lucky. They just get right in. They invest in this particular, I don't know, crypto or stock, and it just goes to the moon, and they get like 1,000% gain, and they're a millionaire overnight. Is it a possibility? Yes, I believe in possibilities. I believe in miracles. Is it a probability? Not really. So I'm going to have the mindset of that is going to I'm going to be consistent with my work over time. And if something just goes parabolic and it just shoots out of nowhere, and I get this and I get this really good opportunity, well, I'm pleasantly surprised. But I'm not going to just bank on that because it's almost like you're trying to cheat the process. Because if you looked at all the entrepreneurs before us, all the great writers before us, they had to put their work in, they had to experience the failures, they had to experience the obstacles. So for me, at times I'm like, who am I to try to cheat this process and try to cheat the steps of this yucky, uncomfortable stage? What makes me so greater than the next entrepreneur or the many before me? So it's almost like a rite of passage, getting a knighthood or something.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's great. And you've obviously established yourself out there now as an expert, and you do a ton of stuff with different people. But like you said, you're an executive health consultant, so you work mainly with like entrepreneurs and business owners. What sort of health problems do they usually come to you with? Like, what is the usual sort of concern, and how do you help these people?
Yeah, I think probably if you look at the overarching view of it, um, of course, they're still going to have their weight problems at times. They're still going to have maybe some lab numbers that are off. They're human just like everybody else. But I think the method and the reasoning why they have those problems, those are the big things. Whereas sometimes you hear, oh, you're just lazy. That's why your health's not good. You just need to get motivated and go work out more. These people are not really lazy. They wouldn't have some of the successes and everything that they have if they were lazy. So we can go ahead and throw that advice of just, hey, just get off the couch and just go run or walk or something. So it's a little more nuanced than that. So I like to just box it up in something I call the success paradox. And so as you build your career up, as you grow in business, or even if you're an entrepreneur, you're moving up the ranks in corporate. And what comes along with that is more responsibility, as it should. Revenues increasing as well. But as you are getting these extra responsibilities, you still have the daily things of life to attend to. So you still have your relationships, but you probably also still have just this added pressure and obligation and feeling now that you want to continue to succeed. And you don't want to go back to day one because day one kind of sucked when you didn't have anything. So nobody wants to go back there. I don't blame them. So you add all these different pressures up. And the thing that gets left out typically is their health. And the health doesn't get left out because of negligence. It gets left out just because of structure and organization. And just they're so preoccupied with all these other factors that if they have time, then they'll slip their health in.
And so with entrepreneurs, like you said, most of the time they're not lazy, right? There are some lazy entrepreneurs, but like you said, if they're successful, you cannot be lazy. Like running your own business is so difficult, and you are working non-stop around the clock. And most of the time, I would say that that's probably where the health concerns come from. No, it's the fact that they're overworking, they're experiencing burnout, and that they are putting everything on the line because they want to see success in their business. So how do you help? Like, I think that's for me, any of the entrepreneurs that I know, the health problems is around burnout and definitely overworking. There's so much narrative at the moment in the media about work-life balance, but that's so different for everyone. Like whether you have kids or not, or just what sort of how many hours of sleep that you need. Like everyone's different between how they function. What advice can you give entrepreneurs, I guess, in order to create their perfect work-life balance, whatever that perfect balance is? Like what advice can you give entrepreneurs for that?
Yeah. So work-life balance. So that means so many different things to so many
Exactly.
different people, as you mentioned,
Exactly.
because some of my friends, it's once Friday gets here, they're checked out. That they don't want to deal with it. And then other people. So I think the first thing to do is actually to establish, what does work-life balance look like to you? What does it feel like? What's ideal for you? I know for me, one of the key things is to have time to just get lost in my runs. And so endurance running, and then some swimming as well, and then some lifting and stuff. So that's a pretty big chunk of time. And that's one of the key blocks for me. So I block off all my workouts every week, every different session. So it's all blocked off in my calendar. So the first thing I do before anything else is I schedule my exercise time. And then I schedule any other important event that's meaningful to me. So I'll schedule probably a dinner or two on Saturday and Sunday. Then I will go and schedule my actual work times and different times for calls and that stuff. And then anything left is probably just miscellaneous stuff, that it's just a buffer to allow for, I don't know, an extra fire I need to put out, or an extra email that comes through and I need to really take care of this, or you just never know. Life happens. And so I have that extra time for that. And then of course I have time blocked off for sleep. So I'm creating a calendar. I'm essentially running my body like I'm running a business in this instance here, is that I'm scheduling it. I'm scheduling these appointments with myself. So they're on there. And then if I ever send a calendar out to people, or people send a calendar to me, it's going to show up that you're not available at this time, because you have this already blocked in there. So that's an organizational tip. I think if we look at something like nutrition, I think to have some type of templates, have some type of nutritional templates. So have maybe 3 to 5 go-to meals that you can make easy without even having to think about it too much. It's very minimal ingredients, but it's also very healthy. Now, if you like to cook, that's a different story. I usually use dinner time to cook as a way for me to slow down, because the rest of the time I'm usually just way too high energy. So I need to calm down. So cooking with some music allows me to slow down. But if you don't like to cook, then you can even meal prep for a few days. If a week's too much, you can just make meals for 2 or 3 days and use that. Another thing is for breakfast. So I have the same breakfast every morning. It's good though. If that sounds bad, to have the same thing. So
Well, it depends how tasty it is. What is it?
yeah. Well, it's a smoothie. It's a smoothie with a bunch of different things in it, and then I have some oatmeal as well. But the thing is, whether you have the smoothie or not, I'm reducing my mental cognitive energy that I'm using here.
Mhm.
A lot of times nutrition gets difficult for people, especially entrepreneurs, and they just grab what's convenience because you don't want to have to think about it. You're thinking about enough things already. And then the next thing you want to think about is, oh man, how am I going to put this meal together? Or what am I going to eat? You just want to get on with your day. And if you think about it, our brains is essentially like an iPhone battery or Android. I want to be equal opportunities here. But so you start at 100%, right? I don't know the Android color battery. I know the iPhone. It's a green. It's green. So we're gonna use the iPhone. So it's a green battery. It's 100%. So we're gonna say if you got a good night's sleep at 100%, every decision that you make, you're always having to think and everything. That's slowly bringing that battery down. And if I have to waste a lot of time thinking about food and those types of things and just organizational stuff like when am I going to work out and all this stuff, that's taking a lot of energy from that battery that can be better allocated toward building some relationships, networking, working on pitches to send to publications or doing client work or anything other than that. So that's organization, yes, but it's also a way to really streamline your nutrition, at least Monday through Friday. Usually the weekend, while I still work, it's just not as much as it is during the week. So I'm a little more lenient with my nutrition during the weekend.
So that makes sense to me, and I think, like, having set recipes is good because I definitely relate to not wanting to think as much. Like you said, there's so many things already in my head. In fact, deciding what to eat for lunch most days is actually just like incredibly stressful because I'm just like, we've got too many things to think about. What do I eat? So in a way, I totally get it. If you had a set thing for you, then that'd be great. But I think where I know as an entrepreneur, I fail is time. And yes, I can block out things in my diary, which is something I also highly recommend, blocking out stuff for you, just time for yourself. Like because I have a calendar that I send out and, everyone does, it's easy, but because your day is just so free, people book in really quickly. And so I started blocking out breaks and I'm gonna have a bath during this time and no one bother me, like reading time, just to actually do that. But the problem is, if I know that, say, if I block out a workout time, so people can't book in the diary, but if I have someone emailing me and it's a potential client or a current client who needs something, like, oh, please can you talk at midday? And I'm like, should be working out then. Yeah, it's fine. And I'll do that. And I'll prioritize them over the workouts. Now, I know I'm very guilty of that. And I'm guessing you're going to say, what is your priority? Your health should come first. Don't do that or something. Yeah. But it's so difficult to do.
I think that that's a natural thing. I have that pull as well. Like I think even 2 days ago, I was 30 to 60 minutes late with my workout just because I really wanted to finish this article I was writing. And so I get it. And I think that's part of the pull of the success paradox. A lot of times when you do client work, you're a very giving, benevolent person. And so we oftentimes do put others before us. It's so, yes, I could say you need to be more selfish. And when you're more selfish, then you fill your bucket up first, and then you better able to serve those people. We've heard that. We've heard that. But I would say listeners that do this as well, just to give yourself some grace and to give yourself some time to break free of that. And because it's because a lot of times you think about this is potential business and revenue for the company. And if you remember how I was on day one, going back to that again, you'll oftentimes dream that these days that you would have people inboxing you to potentially work with you, or just to inbox with different clients asking you different things, and you're busy. You got clients now, you're working. So you remember when you were just sitting here and you had all the time in the world because you didn't have any clients or anything like that. So I totally get it, because you don't want to go back. So there's kind of, for me speaking, there's kind of a fear there of going back. You don't want to go back to that feeling. So that's why I totally get it. It's something that you wrestle with. And I think typically, if they wanted to work with you when they sent the email, I don't think you're waiting for maybe 90 minutes after you get back to the place after your workout. I think they'll still want to work with you.
I don't think it's the fact that I had to put them in straight away. But I guess it's that, say, so for example, we're a creative agency, right? So we do design and build websites, digital marketing. And say someone says, oh, we've got this project coming up. When can you chat? And my diary is usually rammed already as it is. And I can't find any space to put them in the next week, 2 weeks, right? So I have to replace like a workout or something for me or something like that to be able to slot them in. Otherwise I miss out on that opportunity. And it's not that they will wait because they will go to someone else. And I guess that could be a bigger picture thing. And there's other people listening here from a branding perspective and saying, well, if they go with someone else, then you're not branding yourself exclusive enough or niching down, maybe. But the point is, in this day and age, people want to move quickly. People make decisions super quickly. And so and also even with current clients, if they've got an issue, I want to be able to tend to it super quickly, just because that's how and so I feel like I would, put them in my diary over anything that comes to me, because clients come first. That's always how we've been. And that's our motto here, clients come first. So, if something's there personally, but a client has an issue, we would put that in the diary first. And I think that's something I'm really guilty of. And I don't know what the balance is. I don't know whether I should just be like, actually, I don't have anything in the diary and this space, and actually or like you said, you had like contingency slots. Maybe I have to block out contingency slots where I can put them in there as opposed to other places. I don't know, but this is definitely something I'm not very good at.
Well, I think it's something that this doesn't have a specific blanket answer that everyone could use the same, because everyone's going to have their way of handling that, because all of our businesses are different a little bit. And so I don't necessarily have to put out fires as rapidly, or someone can just call me and we can just do it there. So they have my number. They can just call me. So I've been called just like on a run. It's fine. Just for the question. That's fine. So I don't necessarily have to attend to the computer, because I like being away for a while. I get very antsy if I just sit, or if I'm just on a computer for a while. I get really antsy. So I gotta move and get up. Now, but I understand that some businesses need to do that. And that's where it's finding kind of what works for you. And it's gonna take a lot of trial and error. But as long as you realize that, once again, giving yourself grace, but then also remembering though, that long-term, I do need to put my health first, because a lot of times with these people, they'll build up massive success at the expense of their health. And now that they have this massive success and all this revenue and profit, now they're trying to buy back their health. So, but like I said, I've never wanted to just lecture people, say, stop doing that, put yourself first, because that's not being practical. That's living in a test tube or test lab or something like that, right? This is the real world and reality. And business does move fast. It moves really fast now. And a lot of times when people want to buy, they want to buy now. And sometimes if you wait, they don't want to buy, because they're practical. They start thinking more logically and more fear-based. And they're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll wait. It's not that big of a deal, or I could do this. So I get that. One thing is, maybe, I don't know, maybe do it first thing in the morning before everyone is vying for your attention. You go ahead and get this workout done. So no matter what happens during the day, I've already got my workout done.
That is a very good solution, a very logical solution. I just know how grumpy I am in the morning. So it may not be the most practical.
Well, the good thing is, you probably don't have to talk to anyone while you're exercising. So even if you're in a bad mood or everything, it's fine, because a lot of times just moving your body is going to actually improve your mood a little bit. Because a lot of times I'm not exactly thrilled to go run or to go work out or anything, but maybe 10 to 15 minutes, I get into it a little more, because a lot of times I'm thinking there's a lot of work I want to do. There's a lot of projects I want to work on. Like, I need to finish reaching out to this group or organization. I don't want to be here. I just want to sit in and work. But I know that by working out, I'm going to become more efficient at my job, because I'm training my brain. So even when I'm not working, I'm training my mind and my brain. By training my body, I'm training my mind. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, and I think, you're right. And the problem is with all this stuff is that, all the positive things of working out and doing all that sort of stuff isn't instant. And that's the problem, is that you don't see that instant effect. You do, I guess, in terms of like the endorphins, it does feel good, but you also feel shattered and you also feel like achy and and then you feel like you've wasted time because you should be doing other stuff. And that's the problem, even though we know it's right. And time, I think, is the biggest thing, like I said, for entrepreneurs. And you mentioned meal prep earlier, and meal prep is so good for so many reasons. It saves you money, it saves you time, but again, it's like that thought of, when can you prepare so many meals in a row? Like, how do you practically actually do meal prep? Because there's lots of companies who offer it as well now, which I think is a great idea. They just ship you it and it's frozen and it's great, but they're quite expensive, really. So it's not even that good value for money. But in terms of like, if you were to meal prep, what would you recommend? Because I know you have the same breakfast each day, but a lot of people don't like to eat the same thing 2 days in a row. So how do you, like, in a practical basis, actually meal prep so it's not, the same meal every day?
Yeah. So if someone was going to meal prep, what I generally recommended to do is, there's two approaches. So like you mentioned, those services that deliver you food, there's a hybrid approach. So say that breakfast is okay with you, and say for instance dinner is okay with you, but you really struggle during the middle of the day, or you don't want to stop and go cook or go get food somewhere. You just want to keep working along. So what I would recommend then is to use one of those services and just get enough for 5 days. If Monday through Friday, I like to have my head down in the ground and just work through it. Maybe order just 5 meals for that week, Monday through Friday, and it's taken care of. You got your breakfast, you got your dinner, you got your and you got your lunch now, and then maybe you'll have a snack or something as well, and you'll be taken care of. The other option is to, if you want to do, maybe you take Sunday and you have a couple packs of chicken and you cook that up. You can cut it up however you like, different ways. I don't like chicken breasts. They don't have a lot of flavor. I'm very picky. Chicken breasts do not have a lot of flavor. And when I first got started in fitness, I ate a bunch of like bland grilled chicken breasts. So like, I can't eat those anymore. Like chicken breasts and like tuna, I can't look at. Like tuna packets, I can't look at. So I would, now if you like chicken breasts and you season them up, by all means, go do it. But chicken thighs, chicken like little strips or things like that, you can cook up. You can cook that up, and then you can kind of make a little stir fry with it. Or you can cook up some potatoes and you can divide those up, and you can have those evenly distributed for a couple of days or so. And well, you wouldn't do that with fruit. So probably just the carbs and the proteins from the potatoes and some kind of protein. Chicken, I said chicken because chicken's probably going to last longer. I don't know about fish. A couple of days and just heating it up. I don't know.
It's so difficult because I would say that Sunday's a great day to do it. Like most people, take Sunday as an easy day. Even myself, who is a workaholic, and I like to still have an easier Sunday than the rest of the days. And I think that's a great idea. It's like a nice thing to do, just kind of meal prep. But then again, like you said, is it going to last the week? Like you'd have to then put it in the freezer and then defrost it and then have it. Like, so it's a bit confusing. But I guess I think that's something I'm going to try and do. It's definitely a thing that I think would be great. Like it takes your decisions away, it takes the time, it saves money, like doing all that kind of stuff. So I think meal prep is a good idea.
And I think I wouldn't do it for the whole week. That seems overwhelming, and I don't know how it would taste 6 days later. So
yeah,
maybe just see how it is like for 2 days or 3 days.
A good idea. What I was trying to do, which I might try and do again, is that like I'd cook dinner in the evening, and I like cooking, like you're saying, like that escape thing. If you cook a big dinner, you've always got leftovers, and if you don't like eating the same food the next day, you'd have that leftover for the day after lunch, and then you do that every other day. So then you have, like, say your dinner on Tuesday night becomes your Thursday night lunch. So then on Wednesday you'd have your Monday night dinner as leftovers, and then you kind of do that, and therefore you're never eating the same meal 2 days in a row as well. But you're actually saving time because you're just making one meal, like it's dinner, but you're making enough that you've got leftovers for 2 days time.
I've never done anything like that. That sounds interesting and probably useful for a lot of people because they don't finish their dinner. My dinners, I eat everything. So because I have a crazy appetite, right? So I have a crazy appetite and I eat a lot.
So if you make too much, you just eat all of it, and then that should actually be bad for you.
Well, the thing now is that I know exactly. So, like, since I've been doing it so long, I know exactly the amounts that I'm going to cook with each meal, and so I know this is the amount I want for this meal, et cetera, calories and all of that. So this is what I cook, and I'm just going to eat it because I'm pretty much hungry all the time now. I'm pretty much hungry all the time.
I guess that comes from like working out and you actually scheduling it in, so that's good.
Yeah, the running, getting in the water, all that stuff, the box. Yeah. So the more activity you do, it does ramp up your appetite as well. So because I know that's something that people have to get used to as well, is because you tell them I want you to start eating more, and they're like, I'm not hungry yet. And I was like, you will be as you start working out. And then sometimes drinking a lot of caffeine, that kind of blunts your appetite. Mm-hmm. So you don't realize that you're hungry because you have the caffeine, the coffee that's taking the place of that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll let you know how my meal prep ideas go and see if it actually works, because it could be a good shout, but I'm going to try it and see how long.
Yeah, for people who like variety, it absolutely could. See, I'm okay with being a robot most of the week. So
I definitely like the variety. Like, definitely. Can't say meal 2 days in a row. Can't wear the same outfit 2 days in a row. Like, it's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I even have like a rotation, even with like clothes. I have like a rotation. I have a rotation. I have a line of different blazers, and then if it's the summertime, I have different color T-shirts. You just throw those on, and then if it's cooler fall or winter, I have a line of button downs. And
that is the opposite of how I'd like to live. No, I couldn't do that. So everyone is really different. I'd be like, that sounds like my worst nightmare.
Yeah, but right there actually is a very important point when it comes to health as well. Is that if one of the best things you can do for your health before you even just jump into any diet plan or exercise regimen is to really understand your psychology and accept it, and really accept that. Because like most different types of nutrition strategies and methods, they're all the same essentially. It's just different methods of how you get to your end destination. So some diets allow for a lot more carbohydrates, some allow for none, and some you're just eating meat, it's a lot more fats. And so really think about, what do I enjoy? So when I really enjoy carbohydrates, I really enjoy stir fries and rice and potatoes. So I would never get on any type of diet to where I have to completely eliminate those things. And so I think that's just something that's forgotten big time. And I think a lot of times that leads to problems between your business and your life, and they butt heads because you have this fitness diet and this regimen that you're on, but it's not really congruent with your lifestyle and how you like to move and go about. And so you stick with it for a week or two, and then you start to get really annoyed by it. You're like, oh, I got to do this again. I'm so tired of this, because it goes so against your everyday business and even just personal life. So really find something that meshes with all those things together and that they seamlessly integrate.
I love that. I think so. And I think exactly it. Like, as soon as something becomes a chore or becomes, it puts you off the thought of it, then you shouldn't be doing it. And it's time for a change. So
yes. That's why I like having just the rotation of clothes, because I like the feeling of control. So a lot of times throughout the day, there's certain feelings that we gravitate to and that we really crave more than others. And for me, I like the feeling of control, even if and then I always had people say, well, you can't really control a lot in this life. I'm like, look, I don't care. I like the feeling, the illusion of control. Well, let's go with that. So there's a
Yeah.
reason why, like I said, I have this band on me. I keep up with my health data. I'm into the genetics. I'm into all these different testing because I like control. You know,
I like freedom. So yeah, I'm just like, I want spontaneity, freedom, creativity. So it's different all the time. If something can change right now, that's great.
I think some people said though that discipline equals freedom, though, to a certain extent, though.
I guess so. I guess it depends. I guess there's everything in moderation, right? It's a balance for everything. Like you have too much control, then you're controlling, and it's just too much. And like,
see, I'm not good with moderation. I'm not good with moderation. So like I like treats. So I'm either going to eat them all, or I'm going to give them away. But they're never going to just sit there. So because some people could be like, oh, I just have one today and one tomorrow.
I like that. I've got a good self-control. I'll have like one or two. I'm like, no, that's it. You can't have any more. I
eat them all, or I give the rest away. But they did not sit there because I know I can't do that. So it's one extreme or the other.
That's exactly why you need to know who you are and what you like, because otherwise it's just not going to work, is it?
Absolutely.
We're going to clearly need to have the opposite sort of plans, otherwise our personalities just won't adapt to it, which is quite interesting. But,
absolutely.
And there's one last thing I'd be able to ask you, because I've seen that you've been writing about it and everything, and it's about I guess you were talking about the correlation between elite sports personalities and entrepreneurs, and how you can learn from those guys into your business. And I want to talk about that because I find that fascinating. So what do you learn about the elite sporting legends, and how entrepreneurs can learn from them?
Yeah, it kind of ties into what we talked about earlier with burnout. It's to not overlook recovery, and to take your foot off the gas some, and to slow down so you can speed up. Because if you think about it, if we look at athletes in, let's say, football, we'll use football, the real football, as they say, right?
Real football, not American.
The real football.
Right? Okay, good.
I'm not in love with American football anyway, so you get no resistance from me. So,
okay,
good. So let's say football, right? And those guys are running up and down the field 90 plus minutes, right? And the training is a lot. It's very intense. But what they also do is, as hard as they train, as hard as they perform on game day, they put that same amount into their recovery. So they build their bodies back so they can perform even more. Whereas a lot of times with entrepreneurs, when it's go, 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 because in business, if you throw more resources at something, throw more in the ad budget, typically you bring in more revenue, more sales. And so you think about this with your health, is that if I just do more, and always, if I just focus on doing more, then I'm going to get quicker results and better results. And that's not the case, because the body is like scales. It needs balance. Now you can really your body can really build itself up to do some amazing things, but it needs time to be able to do that. Just like I would not be able to probably last as good as those guys on the soccer field or the football field right now. And yeah.
I'm like, what did you say?
So I've gotten better at that. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to last as good as those guys on the football field. But over time, I could probably build myself up to be able to run up and down like that. And so it's the same thing with our health and dinner, is that don't dismiss the recovery aspect. And recovery is, yes, it's sleep as well, but recovery can also just be taking a 5 to 10 minute break during the day, just to gather your thoughts and just to assess how's the first half of this day's going. Recovery could be just at least going out to dinner with your friends or scheduling that, just to do something, just to break that pattern and to bring some balance, your definition of balance, into the equation.
Yeah, I like that. Definitely. So this is always your definition of it, and whatever that means to you, that's great. But one other thing, it's not football field here, it's football pitch. Just,
Football pitch?
Yeah, it's a pitch.
So you don't just say football.
We say football, but I'm saying that it's not a field, it's a pitch.
Oh, it's a pitch. Okay. Didn't know
just
that.
If you want to get it accurate, like football field is the one that you play American on. That you guys call that a field. We say a pitch over here.
Oh wow! No, that's
Totally
important.
different language.
No, that's important because when I go back to Europe again, I need to have the right vocabulary so I can blend in as best as I can. But soon they'll be like, okay, he's American. Okay, he's definitely American. So it'll come out at some point.
But pitch, it's not a field. Just have to say it.
Okay. No. I appreciate that. I love, that's not even criticism. That's helping me.
It's not criticism. It's actually just, I see being so particular about football, not soccer. Soccer field, fine. Football pitch.
See, I was combining the best of both worlds. I was talking to all audiences, people who like fields and then people who play football. I was covering all my bases.
There you go. Inclusive. But thank you so much. It's been an amazing conversation today, Julian. And I just want to ask, where can people get in touch with you if they want to kind of ask you more about like epigenetics and kind of all this stuff and staying healthy?
Yeah, all my information will be at my home base, theartoffitnessandlife.com.
Perfect. So I will put a link to that in the show notes. And if people want to hit you up, they can do. And I'm sure they'll have lots of questions because it's been super interesting. So thank you so much for being on today's show.
Thank you much again. And thank you for the pitch, actually.
No problem. My pleasure. And thanks everyone for tuning in. And I'll see you guys next week for another episode of No Bullshit Talks.